Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode, and I'm absolutely thrilled today to have with me Irina Alexander and Jen Hardy. I met them last fall at a thought leader conference or council rather um, event, and they have a incredibly interesting company and an equally interesting set of stories. So I asked them if they'd come on the pod, and they both graciously said yes. So, ladies, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Great to see you again.
Thanks for having
So,
us.
Jen, since I feel a connection with you through Kerrville and the Hill Country, I'm going to start with you because, as our listeners will soon note, Irina is from what we call East Texas. And she's going to tell her backstory, but tell us a little bit about your academic background, Jen, and how you got to you and up to the point where you and Irina became business partners.
Oh, all right. Fast version. I grew up in Austin, Texas, went to Westlake High School, but the reason we have that Hill Country connection is I went to college in Kerrville at Schreiner and absolutely loved being at Schreiner, played soccer there, enjoyed all 4 years there, and actually started my teaching career in Kerrville as well. So I went back to Kerrville and stayed there for quite some time, spent 4 years as an educator there and as a JV soccer coach and head cross country coach for a while until I made my way back to Austin, where I was also an educator for Vandergrift High School, opened Vandergrift High School, won a state championship while I was there, went back a few times and loved it. I loved being a coach. I loved being a teacher. I found a passion in it, I should say, because if you told me when I was 18 years old that I was going to end up being a teacher, I would have laughed in your face. I had no desire to be an educator. It all just kind of happened that way. And I ended up being very good at it. But when I got to the point of winning a state championship, being the girls athletic coordinator, taking on all these roles and responsibilities, and we can talk about the burnout side of that stuff later, but getting to that overwhelm, but also realizing what else can I do? If this wasn't even what I chose to do, what I planned to do with my life, but I threw myself into it and was successful, then what else can I do? And that's when I made the decision in 2018 to leave my 12-year coaching and teaching career at what most would say was the height of my career, throwing a lot of people for a loop, which was kind of fun. And I left and went to go find out what else was possible. And in that journey, I found Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis. I'd say I really just went on a self-discovery journey. I went on, who am I? Who am I? And what do I want to be when I grow up? What am I actually doing? And I fell in love with NLP. I fell in love with the transformation that I received for myself, for my family, the relationships with my sister, my father, all of the above, with myself more than anything. And through that journey, I met this beautiful woman. And the funny part of the story is how much I did not like her when I met her. She came across in a way that rubbed me the wrong way the first time we met. I was actually a coach assisting at her practitioner training, and her being who she is, she skipped her way over and went straight into the trainer's training that I was going to be a part of. And that's where we jokingly say we got anchored to each other and found a lot of similarities and a lot of, I say, healing through a relationship that we've developed through each other. Started with supporting each other in our certification programs that we both hosted with NLP. I was also doing a lot of work with women. She was doing a lot with business owners, and we were crossing over a lot, helping each other in that way. And it just got to a point of, why are we not doing this together? And so we decided to jump in and do this together. And then there's a whole other story of what's come since then. But that's the really fast, high level version of how we got to right here, right now.
Irina, could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to meet Jen?
My version. We're like a couple. What's your version? I'm originally from Russia. I've been in the States for about 15 years, and I went through burnout in my last business, which was in a male-dominated industry. I used to run a heating and air conditioning company. And I went through burnout. I sold the company, and I was like, okay, when I grow up, who do I want to be and what do I want to do? What actually makes me happy? Because I was chasing success, which used to equal money to me. And when I got that, I realized that I'm not happy. And the true success is actually happiness, along with all other things. So I went into the self-discovery route, met Jen in NLP training, went to the trainer's level without even thinking that I'm going to teach or train people. I did it purely for selfish reasons, to be better, better mom, better friend, and then kind of fell into the helping other business owners because they saw me change and they was like, I want that. And so I started helping them. As Jen said, we started helping each other, traveling and helping and talking a lot about hosting events and so on. And one day I was like, why don't we just do it together? We can combine our forces and cover more, do more, and create a bigger, better impact.
So, what is the cycle of overcommitment? Who wants to take that one?
I'm like, Irina, I can give you my version of cycle of overcommitment. Learning the kinds of tools and techniques that we've learned, we've actually got a system to figure out what it is for you, because I don't think the cycle of overcommitment is a standard playing field for everyone. It's what is it for you and how does it happen for you? How do you get sucked into it? But for me, it's saying yes when I want to say no. It's saying yes because I think I have to, because I need to provide value, because if I don't, who am I? It's that lack of, it's that scarcity mindset of you've got to do more. And in our work, we know that it's you got to be first. It's recognizing who am I versus what am I doing. And that for me was a recognition, even again recently when Irina and I got together, of over networking was how it showed up for me recently, was just meet new people. And then it was like, wait, this is exhausting. I'm running myself into the ground and it's getting me nowhere. We're going back, we're looking over the metrics. This isn't actually resulting in any solid relationships. And the reality was I needed to invest more time into the relationships I already had. But sometimes when we get in that scarcity mindset, it's got to do more, got to do more, got to do more. And it's, no, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? Where do I need to invest in me and the people I already know? And there's, again, this is why I say I don't believe it's an even playing field. It's different for everybody.
So, how were you able to take that and go to, and then through your path of self-discovery, create your academy and utilize the CARES approach? So maybe I can ask you about that, Irina.
So Academy was actually the name, and overall the idea started from something completely different. First, I was bored, so to speak. COVID came and I created an action journal. And I needed a name for the company. So I posted on Facebook, hey, give me some great ideas. This is what I'm doing. And somebody just said motivation and action, one word, and it really aligned. And I was like, that's it. Thank you. And then as we went into the training, the academy, we just added the word. But a company originally started in 2020, and I was selling action journals on Amazon. And then as me and Jen partnered together, we were pulled into, I usually don't work in December. That used to be my rule. And Miss Jen called me one day and say, hey, we're speaking on December 15th. And she was like, I know you don't work in December, but, and I was like, here we go. It was a family favor. So to speak at the conference that her family, large event that her family put together for fitness industry. And some of the relationships were already in the works with the first responders, but that's when I came and met one of the mutual Jen's and her family friend, and we started talking. And originally it was like, hey, they already have this program. Why don't you look at our communication, what we teach, and kind of help us revise it and make it more effective? And as communication and as the conversation progressed, we end up like, oh, you can create your whole new program. And so that's what we did. We had a person who used to be a police officer, retired, who already provides education for first responder. And he saw what we do through us, especially speaking during that event at the conference. He believed in us. He saw the passion in our eyes, and he said, let's do that. And he guided us through what it is, what it will take to create a program. So we created a program. He put a beta group for us to run us through the first responders. And that's how it started. It's just being in the right place at the right time and having somebody who truly saw your value and potential and believed in you. And I almost call him like our godfather with a cares approach, because he truly believed in us and helped us start. Without him, that wouldn't be possible.
I put it a different way, which was the universe opening a door for you and you guys having the courage to walk through it, because that's my story.
Mhm.
I'm really intrigued, Jen, but let's explore the start with the first responders. I think everyone would understand that's a high stress job, no matter
Mhm.
what it is. Literally, if you're an administrator in a police station, all the way out to somebody on the front lines fighting a fire or having to protect the public safety. What are some of the things that the care approach helps first responders deal with all of this stress and even trauma?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, it's high stress professional in general. When we dove into the research, because obviously we're not engaged in or connected to the first responder industry in any capacity. So it's like, what are we going to be able to do? Because the original discussion that was brought to the table was how can you support the fact that suicide rates are tripling? And we were like, that's not really our forte, but at the same time, there are elements that are. And so when we dove into what are the components that are really factored in towards that suicide rate driving up so dramatically outside of politics and everything going on culturally, that was relationships were falling apart and depression. And Irina and I both are very much in alignment that if you can't relate to another human, if you can't communicate in a way that allows you to relate, then your quality of life is going to decrease. Our quality of life is based on our ability to have relationships with ourselves and with others. And so when we saw that the number one factor for suicide getting to that point was these relationships falling apart and that depression, we're like, okay, let's go right there. Let's hit that area. And so CARES is communication, awareness, resiliency, emotional literacy, and self mastery. And we're really working on the inter and intrapersonal communication. How do they understand how they're talking to themselves, the stories they're telling themselves, how they're creating their reality, and then how they're actually communicating and connecting with other people, or in this case, how they're not, how they're only walking around saying, nobody understands, nobody gets it. And it's have you tried? Some have, and they're received with resistance, and some just flat out have not. And how do you have those conversations? And then once you do, how do you navigate them? Because they're new and they're uncomfortable, and nobody likes to have hard conversations. At least Irina and I do. But most people don't enjoy them. So how do you navigate the psychological safety, the neurological, like the nervous system's response to this may not be a safe conversation or result? And it's just been really beautiful to witness how well it's received and how quickly it's received.
Jen, would you say it's equally well received between male first responders and female first responders, or do you see a difference?
Honestly, I would say it's received equally. It's received differently, but equally.
Arita, as because we met at the Thought Council, I work in the corporate world. And I've certainly experienced burnout in the corporate world, and I've seen that. Does the approach you all take work in a high stress environment that might not be for what we call first responders?
Absolutely. High stress is high stress, right? It's just that. And everybody experiences it differently. Yet we were able to create that framework and realize that it works in general for all high stress professionals. And I personally can relate to it like you do, is I went through burnout. I know what it feels like to be down on your knees and don't want to wake up in the morning and see another day because, oh, it's the same and so on. Absolutely, it works. It works beautifully. That's where I originally started to implement it. All the tools is with people who are in business, in corporate. Jen done it with private clients as well. The first responder world end up being a byproduct because we already for several years been running it with high stress professionals. We just didn't label them that way. We didn't see it that way. And then we realized, oh, the big umbrella is all of those people, they're highly stressed. They put a lot of pressure on their shoulders. They feel like they have to, and they're taking care of everything and everybody else, but they're not pouring into themselves. And that costs them a lot of times their lives and their relationship and their happiness.
So there's a second part of this and your program, which is building resiliency. It's one thing to understand and recognize the stress, communicate that stress, but then you have to have a go forward plan. And how do you help anyone build resiliency on a go forward basis?
Like, you want to go? You want me to go?
Go.
I mean, resiliency at its core, right, is leaning into something hard, dealing with the result, managing the outcome, managing your response, their response, your nervous system response, and then being willing to go do it again, right? It's having those hard conversations, it's getting into those difficult situations. And so we talk a lot about being able to break down what's actually happening in your head, what's the communication you're actually telling yourself. But I've even done this with soccer players recently. I mean, if anyone's been around teenagers right now, resiliency it's low, right? It's really low. And it's how do you bounce back? And part of what we believe in how you bounce back is, what are you making it mean? Right? We are meaning making machines in every situation. And if we can pinpoint just a piece of, okay, what am I making this mean right now about me, about them, about the world, about everything? Then maybe I don't have to make it mean that this is horrible, that this is awful, that I can't get out, that it's helpless, that it's hopeless. Add in any variation of the story that you want. I finished with a team recently, and this is why I think it's funny, because we're talking about corporate, but then I'm working with these 18 to 16-year-olds, and I'm like, same thing. And I recently got to go see these girls at one of their soccer games because they were playing across the street. And one of the players got injured, and right when the season started. And most teenagers, when they get injured and they haven't ever been injured before, it's devastating. Your identity is lost. You don't know who you are. And she runs up to me during warm up, and she's got a camera in her hand. So she runs up to me and she's like, "Coach Hardy, I'm not letting injury define me." And she shows me her camera and she's like, "I'm now taking team photos." And I'm like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, it was just such a really awesome moment to have her come back in that moment and want to make sure I know that I'm not letting this define me. I'm not letting a downfall, an upset, something not going the way I planned define how it's going to move forward.
Rita, let me change the focus just a little bit and ask you about your collective plans going forward. How are you going to help get this message out to others? I hope, as I say, I hope your people can talk to my people, meaning you start talking to the corporate world about these issues, because I'm not sure we really have enough of this. Where do you see all of this going, at least as it pertains to what you guys have going?
I'll take this one because I'm a global visionary and I would love to take it global. I would love for you, because we work with leaders and we work with individuals, but honestly, what we truly want to do and what will create the true impact is changing the system, because we're still playing in a system, and a lot of times people like, yes, but my boss, but the government, but, and so on. We train and teach people to take responsibility for their life and create what they want, but yet in order for us to have the larger and bigger impact, we aiming big for a change in the system. That's why we're going into the school districts, right? That's why we're going into the government entities to have that meaningful impact. And it all starts from the top, from the leadership and above. So that's the vision, that's the goal. Very ambitious and quite challenging at this moment.
Do you have any upcoming programs or initiatives that you could share with us at this point?
It started last year, but mainly we don't host our own programs anymore. We are by invite only. So when people need us, we come to them and we provide our services. So we have several corporate bids, jobs, so to speak, in a pipeline, the same as with first responders. But at this point, we are no longer hosting our own events. We are open to receive the requests and start conversation how we can come to you and help you.
I would say we do also get out there to do speaking or like mini workshops, just to start to get conversations engaged, because we're saying the things we're saying right now, and some people might still be like, I mean, I get it, but I also don't. So we do anywhere from 30 to 60-minute master classes, workshops, speaking engagements, keynotes. I have one coming up in San Antonio on February 6th at a home design studio. They're targeting real estate agents, high stress professionals. And that one will be more about understanding goal setting, but from a place of how do we not get stuck where we're in that overcommitment, overworking sense of mind. So speaking engagements and mini workshops are also ways that we get ourselves out there to get information out and support people as we can. We've got a few conversations going with Vandergrift High School and Cedar Park High School's leadership teams as well.
Ladies, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode. But before we leave, I wanted to ask you both if our listeners wanted to connect with you all, find out more information about either the CARES program or the Academy, what might be the best way for them to do, or the best places for them to go.
So best ways to find us is our website is MotivAction.Academy. You can also email us at hello@academyofmotivaction.com and LinkedIn. Irina Alexander, Jen Hardy, we are there and we will be happy for you to connect with us.
Ladies, I wanted to thank you both for taking the time to visit with me, and I hope we can continue this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.